Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're taking a trip to Oz.
But not the Oz you think you know.
Exactly. We're going wicked. Literally.
We're diving into Gregory Maguire's Wicked.
The novel, not the musical, right?
You got it.
So I know the basic story, Dorothy. The witches, the yellow brick road.
But Maguire kind of flips the whole thing on its head.
And that's what today's deep dive is all about.
We're looking at an excerpt from a literary analysis.
Okay, so this analysis breaks down the book's big themes.
Things like good versus evil, discrimination, power, and identity.
Heavy stuff, but so relevant, even though it's set in Oz.
Right. Maguire uses this fantastical setting to explore real-world issues.
Let's start with Elphaba. She's like the heart of the story.
Absolutely, and the analysis really digs into her character.
So in the original Oz story, she's the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah, but Maguire gives us her backstory, her perspective.
And suddenly she's not so simple, not just evil.
The analysis points out a passage where she's a child.
Oh, tell me about it.
She's fascinated by the Cumbrisha, this religious group.
Okay.
They believe in the inherent goodness of all creatures.
Interesting. So even as a kid, Elphaba has this empathy.
Exactly. It foreshadows her later fight for animal rights.
Which is so different from the Wicked Witch we're used to.
Right. And that brings us to the theme of moral ambiguity.
So it's not as simple as good versus evil anymore.
Nope. Maguire asks us who decides what's wicked.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is it inherent or a label used to control people?
I like that. Kind of like how the wizard uses power.
Absolutely. The analysis compares the Emerald City to a facade.
Beautiful on the outside, but hiding something dark underneath.
Exactly. And the wizard himself embodies that corruption.
So he's not just a bumbling old man anymore.
Not in this version. He's a master manipulator.
Using fear and propaganda to keep his power.
The analysis quotes him saying disobedience must be unthinkable.
That's chilling.
It shows how those in power can twist the narrative.
Create this idea of good and evil to serve their own agenda.
And then you have Elphaba who challenges that narrative. But she's immediately marked as different.
Right. Her green skin becomes a symbol of otherness.
A way from Maguire to explore discrimination.
The analysis mentions a scene where Elphaba is a child.
Oh, I think I remember this one.
She's mocked, called a freak because of her skin.
So sad. And it reminds me of how we judge people in the real world.
Based on superficial things like race or anything different.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
And Maguire goes further with the animal-animal divide in Oz.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering where we'd get to that.
It's like an allegory for hierarchies in our own world.
How some groups are denied rights because they're seen as lesser.
Exactly, and Elphaba becomes a voice for those marginalized groups.
There's that powerful scene where she sees animals being mistreated.
In a slaughterhouse, it's a turning point for her.
It sparks her activism, her fight for animal rights.
And that's what makes her so compelling. She doesn't just accept it.
She fights back, even though it's dangerous.
But she's not perfect. She makes mistakes, struggles with anger.
The analysis mentions a moment where she considers revenge.
Right, it shows her humanity, her complexity.
And that's what makes her so relatable.
We all make mistakes. We all struggle. It's part of being human.
So we're seeing these themes of moral ambiguity, discrimination, but where does power come in?
Power is kind of the thread that ties it all together.
The analysis definitely makes that argument.
It's everywhere in Oz, not just with the wizard.
Yeah, you see it at the university with Dr. Dillamond.
Exactly. He's silenced, marginalized because he's an animal.
And that's supposed to be this place of learning, open-mindedness.
But even there, power dynamics are at play.
The analysis quotes a student saying, "Animals should be seen, not heard."
Ugh, it's like that thinking becomes normalized.
It's scary how insidious those power structures can be.
They shape how we see the world without us even realizing it.
So how do we even recognize those systems, let alone fight them?
Well, that's where Elphaba comes in. She's constantly questioning.
Right, she's like that thorn in the side of the status quo.
The analysis uses that exact phrase.
She refuses to be controlled, even when it makes her an outsider.
And her relationships are really important here.
Like with Glinda, they have such different approaches to power.
The analysis contrasts their paths.
Glinda kind of works within the system, tries to make it better.
While Elphaba rejects those limits completely.
She's not interested in playing by the rules of a broken system.
And the analysis points out how this highlights a bigger question.
About social change, right?
Yeah, is it better to work within the system or challenge it head on?
Tough question. No easy answer.
Yeah, definitely something to think about in our own lives.
And then there's Pharaoh, Elphaba's love interest.
He represents a different kind of power, one based on empathy.
He gives up his privilege, chooses to stand with Elphaba.
And the analysis argues that their love story is significant,
because it shows that connection can be a force for change.
even in a world that tries to keep them apart.
And it's not just romantic love, there's also Dr. Dillamond.
He's Elphaba's mentor, the one who opens her eyes.
To the oppression of animals, he encourages her to use her voice.
The analysis quotes him saying, "You have a voice, child, use it."
And then his death. It's such a turning point for Elphaba.
It fuels her anger, her determination to fight back.
Even if it means embracing that label of wicked. You know, it's amazing how we can relate to Elphaba.
Even though she's in this magical world.
Right, like flying monkeys and spells.
But the analysis talks about this, about her search for identity.
Yeah, and that's something we all go through, right?
Absolutely, figuring out who we are.
Especially when the world's trying to tell you who you should be.
And for Elphaba, that label's wicked right from the start.
I mean, even as a baby, the midwife calls her a demon child.
The analysis mentions that. It's like she's never given a chance.
To just be herself, without that judgment.
And that struggle to break free from those labels, it's universal.
We all face it, those boxes society tries to put us in.
But Elphaba, she pushes back, constantly evolving.
There's that scene where she's studying magic and it hits her. That there are other ways to see the world, not just the powerful's view.
That's a powerful moment of self-discovery.
Realizing her own perspective matters.
And that's key, right? It's not just rejecting labels.
It's about the choices she makes, shaping her own destiny.
The analysis talks about this too, defying the prophecy.
That she's supposed to be the wicked witch.
But even good intentions can have unintended consequences.
Like when she tries to save Nesseros, her sister.
Tragic results. It shows that good and evil aren't so simple.
Which is what this whole analysis keeps coming back to, right?
That nuance in morality, things aren't black and white.
It makes you think about those wicked labels in our own world.
The people we outcast, just for being different, challenging things.
The analysis even asks, who are the real wicked ones then?
If it's all about silencing dissent, makes you think.
It does, and that's what Elphaba's story makes us do.
To question those easy labels, the narratives we're told.
And to have the guts to fight for what we believe in.
Even if it means being called wicked ourselves.
That's the real magic of Wicked. It's not just a story.
It sticks with you, makes you question things.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Wicked,
What's the big takeaway?
question everything. Don't accept labels blindly.
Don't be afraid to challenge authority.
And most importantly, define yourself on your own terms.
Embrace that wickedness and use it for good.
Beautifully said. And to our listener, if you haven't already,
Dive into the world of Wicked.
it's a story that'll stay with you. And until next time.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.